Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. The ghost of Serafina's smile still flickers at the edges of my memory. A phantom limb aching with a sensation that once felt vital. That lopsided curve of her lips, always a heartbeat behind the light in her eyes, used to strike me as a fragile dawn breaking through a perpetual twilight. Now, if you pressed me, I'd tell you it was a performance, meticulously rehearsed, and I was a fool for not seeing the strings. 2 years into our marriage, the rot had already set in. A silent decay like damp eating away at the foundations of a grand but ultimately flawed structure. We found each other late, both north of 35, drawn together by the fluorescent hum of the architecture firm where ambition and exhaustion mingled like stale coffee fumes. Serafina was a magnet, a quiet storm of beauty that seemed utterly effortless. She wore her confidence like a second skin, a subtle scent only perceptible up close. She painted pictures of a simple future, children echoing in a sun-drenched house, a clumsy dog tracking mud through a garden, the quiet rhythm of domesticity. And when we married, she shed her career like an unwanted coat, embracing the role of homemaker with an almost unsettling enthusiasm. She sold it as her deepest yearning, and I, blinded by affection and perhaps a touch of ego, bought the lie wholesale. Our house was always immaculate, a stage set for a life that wasn't real. I'd walk in to the aroma of meals I hadn't requested, the sharp tang of lemon polish hanging in the air, and the low murmur of her voice drifting from the kitchen, a constant, almost unnerving soundtrack. At first, it was endearing, a testament to her care. Then, it became too perfect, a carefully constructed facade she knew I'd cling to, a buffer against some unspoken truth. Even then, I told myself I was content. We were trying for a child, or so she claimed. Month after month, the same weary sigh, the same pronouncements of failure. Her disappointment was a carefully etched mask. I never pressed, never questioned. She seemed genuinely heartbroken. But her sorrow wasn't for a child that never was. It was for a man she couldn't sever ties with. The first thread of the truth snagged one late night at the office. Lena, a colleague with a penchant for the unexpected, strong-armed me into an impromptu dinner party. I texted Serafina, half expecting a sigh of martyrdom, but her reply was saccharine, almost cloying. She urged me to enjoy myself, offered to warm my dinner. I smiled at the message, a fool's smile, thinking I'd landed the jackpot of wives. Then, on the drive home, I saw her, a fleeting glimpse under the sodium glow of a street lamp at the intersection of 5th and Dover. A familiar silhouette, a tilt of the head. Serafina, her hand laced with a man I didn't recognize. They were laughing, her head thrown back, that crooked smile finally reaching her eyes. They didn't see me, frozen behind the anonymity of a bus shelter, my heart a trapped bird in my chest, each breath a ragged tear in my lungs. It wasn't just the hand-holding. It was the unguarded joy on her face. My world fractured, the edges blurring, and I stumbled home, each step a wade through thick, dark water. Everything she'd ever said about love, loyalty, building a life, now echoed as hollow pronouncements, the clapper of a cracked bell. I didn't confront her that night, didn't even hint at what I'd witnessed. I simply lay in the darkness beside her, her breathing even and undisturbed, as if nothing had shifted. But everything had, irreversibly. The following days were a slow-motion descent. I started noticing the inconsistencies I'd previously dismissed as quirks. Password changes on her devices, new lingerie, the kind she'd once scoffed at, tucked away in drawers she rarely opened. A sudden, almost performative interest in skincare products she used to label overpriced nonsense. Small things insidious in their accumulation. Then the slip. One morning, while she showered, her phone lay face up on the nightstand, unlocked. I tell myself now there was a moment of hesitation, a flicker of conscience. But the truth is, my fingers moved with a predatory instinct. Within seconds, the dam burst. Texts, sweet and laced with a raw intimacy that belonged to someone else. Photos of them tangled in hotel beds, sharing desserts with intertwined fingers, sun-drenched selfies from rooftop bars. My wife, radiant in the arms of a stranger. And then the gut punch. A conversation about an upcoming weekend getaway, a luxury spa retreat, celebrating their 1-year anniversary. 1 year. I sat on the edge of our bed, the screen a cold mirror reflecting my shattered reality, watching the woman I loved dissolve into a collection of pixels, whispering lies to another man. I felt hollowed out, a shell emptied of its contents. Sleep was a foreign concept that night. I stared at the ceiling, tracing the fault lines in our history, searching for the precise moment she'd stopped loving me. The next morning, Serafina kissed my cheek, a casual peck that felt like a brand, and mentioned a visit to her old friend Clara on Wednesday. I nodded, a performance of normalcy, the lie a bitter taste on my tongue. She looked vibrant, more alive than she had in months. And now I knew why. Have fun, I managed, the words laced with a sarcasm she didn't detect. Inside, the gears of my own quiet revenge had begun to turn. The following day, I feigned a dental emergency, the lie sliding off my tongue with unsettling ease. She left early, a suitcase in hand, the ghost of her perfume lingering in the air like a taunt. I watched her walk away, each step a further betrayal. That afternoon, the carefully timed text arrived. Checked in. Clara says hi. So good to catch up. Hugs and kisses. A simple thumbs up was my reply, a mask of indifference. Meanwhile, I'd already engaged Simone Vance, a private investigator with a reputation for discretion and a keen eye for detail. She'd been tailing Serafina since she left at 6:45 p.m. The first photo arrived within the hour. Serafina, poolside, draped in a white robe, a glass of wine catching the last rays of the sun. And beside her, Julian Thorne, the man from the street, their lips locked in a careless kiss. I stared at that image for hours. This wasn't just infidelity. It was annihilation. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a stranger wearing her skin. The next morning, another text. Hey, love. Hope you're eating okay. My card's not working. Can you transfer some money? That was the moment the switch flipped. My reply was curt. It's not working because I disabled it. Ask your boyfriend to pay for it. Her feigned confusion was immediate. What? I told you I'm with Clara. Why would you say something like that? A low, bitter laugh escaped me. The sound of a man who had finally stopped bleeding and was now meticulously sharpening his instruments. And that's when the crafting began, the slow, deliberate construction of a personal reckoning. Her texts kept coming, each one a fresh wave of manufactured outrage. Elias, what the hell is going on? I stared at the screen. Elias. My name, the man she'd sworn vows to, the man she was now texting from a hotel bed shared with another, asking for funds to facilitate her deception. I let her stew in the silence. Simone's report was a goldmine. Photos, receipts, even a grainy video from the hotel restaurant. Serafina, in the red floral dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, feeding Julian a forkful of steak while he pressed kisses to her wrist. Julian Thorne, mid-level executive, married, 2 kids, 41, slim, polished, a walking cliché of suburban temptation in a tailored blazer. And he had absolutely no idea the storm he'd wandered into. I ignored Serafina for hours, letting the silence become a weapon. Around midnight, her calls started. Declined. Declined again. Then, a voicemail notification. Her voice trembled, a fragile tremor that didn't quite ring true. Elias, I don't know what's happening. I didn't mean to lie. I didn't want you to worry. Hi, I'm not with Clara. I just needed some time alone. Please call me back. I love you. I played it twice. The second time I snorted. Love? The way a carrion bird loves a dying animal. Maybe. My reply was ice. I already know where you are. I've seen everything. Enjoy your last night. Silence. That weekend I moved out. Weeks of quiet preparation. Transferring essentials, documents, laptop, family heirlooms, to a storage unit paid for in cash. The apartment we'd once called home felt tainted, the scent of her perfume clinging to the walls like a persistent lie. An envelope rested on the dining table. Inside, divorce papers, screenshots, a brief, brutal note. I'm not the fool you thought I was. No one. Then I walked out silent, controlled. No tears. By Monday she was back. I knew the instant she stepped into the empty apartment and saw the note. My phone erupted. Ignored. Again and again. I let her panic fester. At 3:15 p.m., a voicemail. Anger barely concealed beneath a veneer of wounded innocence. Elias, this is cruel. You just left? You didn't even talk to me? You're being dramatic over nothing. Nothing. The word was a spark in dry tinder. When she called again, I answered, my voice flat and cold. You lied to me for over a year, slept in my bed while loving another man. And now you call this dramatic. The tears started soft at first, then escalating into a manipulative torrent. I didn't mean for it to happen. You were always so distant lately. I felt alone. Julian listened to me. There it was. The deflection. The attempt to rewrite the narrative, casting me as the villain. A cold smile touched my lips. Distant? I worked late nights to pay for that spa where you were fucking him. Silence. Then a choked whisper. So, this is it. No reply. Elias, please, she begged. Let's talk in person. Just hear me out. You don't deserve a conversation, I said, the words like shards of glass. You deserve consequences. And I hung up. Julian was next. He wouldn't walk away unscathed. He'd built his little fantasy on the ruins of my life, and it was time to set it ablaze. 3 days later, I found Vivian Thorne's yoga studio. I dressed casually, presentable, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I waited outside during her lunch break, a respectful distance. When she emerged, sipping a green juice, her brow furrowed in concentration, I approached softly. Vivian Thorne? She paused, a flicker of wariness in her eyes. Yes, I'm Elias Reed. A beat of silence hung in the air. I'm Seraphina's husband. The color drained from her face. 10 minutes later, we sat on a park bench under the shade of an ancient oak. No shouting, no accusations. Just a sealed envelope handed across the space between us. Inside, everything. She flipped through the contents, her breath catching in her throat. Photos, messages, hotel confirmations. The last page was a note, stark and unforgiving. He's been cheating on you with my wife for over a year. Vivian didn't cry. She simply whispered, I thought it was just me, that I was going crazy. I nodded slowly. You weren't. I stood. I'm sorry. I know this hurts, but you deserve to know. She clutched the folder to her chest, a fragile shield against the onslaught of truth. And I walked away, no backward glances. 2 days later, Seraphina was at my new place. How she found me, I'll never know. Probably a hacked delivery order or a shared account I'd overlooked. I opened the door slowly. She looked ravaged. Dark circles under her eyes, hair a tangled mess. No makeup, wearing one of my old hoodies like a shield against the world. Please, she whispered, her voice raw. Don't shut me out. I remained silent, a stone wall. She stepped inside uninvited, tears already welling. Vivian found out. She left, took the kids. Julian blames me for everything. Says I ruined his life. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. You did ruin someone's life. Mine. She looked at me then, truly looked, and I saw a flicker of something new. Panic. Elias, I never wanted this. Silence. He said he loved me. He promised we'd be together if Vivian ever left. Now he won't even answer my texts. I gave up everything for him. A slight tilt of my head. No, you gave up me, and now you're paying the price. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. Don't. Her breath hitched. Don't even pretend to care now. You can't just throw away 2 years. She cried, the tears finally spilling over. You threw them away first. Then the final act. From the table, I picked up a manila envelope and handed it to her. What's this? Open it. Inside, a letter and a copy of the legal complaint. intentional infliction of emotional distress, and an official statement from Clara, her supposed alibi. To whom it may concern, I did not see Serafina read at any time between March 12th and 17th. Any claims otherwise are false. Serafina dropped the paper as if it were burning her fingers. Yeah, you planned all of this. No, Serafina, I said softly, my voice devoid of emotion. You did. She stood frozen, her mouth slightly agape, like the air had been sucked from her lungs. The envelope trembled in her hands. She hadn't expected this. She'd anticipated rage, perhaps a breakdown, but not this cold, calculated dismantling. This is cruel, she finally choked out. A humorless laugh escaped me. Cruel? Cruel is watching your wife lie to your face while she kisses another man in a hotel elevator. Cruel is coming home to the smell of sandalwood and wine and wondering if she was just having a drink with a friend or spreading her legs for someone else. Cruel is pretending not to see it because you're terrified of what the truth might shatter. She looked down, her shoulders slumping. Now I know, I continued, my voice steady. And now you get to feel what it's like to be the one left wondering. She tried again. I messed up, Elias. I know that. Panicked. You were always working. Don't you dare justify it. I cut in, my voice sharp. I took another step back, shaking my head slowly. You didn't just mess up. You built a life around your betrayal. You lied for over a year. You made me believe we were trying for a baby while planning spa weekends with him. Her eyes welled up, but her tears held no power for me anymore. They were currency she'd already spent elsewhere. Leave, I said, my voice flat and final. We're done. But she didn't move. Instead, she sank onto the edge of the couch, a ghost trying to inhabit a space that no longer recognized her. Her voice was broken. I've lost everything. My friends, my reputation, they know. Vivian posted everything on social media. My inbox is full of people calling me a liar, a homewrecker. I offered no comfort. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her consequence. She cried harder. I can't go back to my job, Elias. Her voice was raw with desperation. They saw it. My former boss emailed me, told me not to bother reapplying. Bad look for the firm. I didn't flinch. Not my problem. Her frustration finally cracked. I was stupid, she shouted, her voice laced with hysteria. I thought I was falling in love with someone new, but it was just lust. It wasn't real. You were real. You always were. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a near whisper. Funny. I used to say the same thing about you. Her face crumpled, and I watched her break, but the satisfaction was strangely muted. The next day, I met with Simone Vance, a woman who dealt in the messy realities of human failings, her words sharp, her instincts sharper. I laid out the evidence, the texts, the photos, the timelines, the financial records showing Serafina using my money for her illicit getaways. She simply nodded, a grim satisfaction in her eyes. Airtight, she declared. You'll walk away clean. I want her to walk away with nothing, I stated, the bitterness still clinging to my tongue. Simone didn't hesitate. Then that's what we'll do. We froze the joint accounts, submitted the evidence of her financial misuse. The condo, my stocks, my car, all in my name. She had no leverage. Serafina, once so poised and self-assured, was now scrambling for purchase in a world she'd deliberately torched. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. A week later, I found Arthur, Serafina's father, alone on his porch. He'd always liked me, once called me the best thing that had ever happened to his daughter. He looked up, startled. Elias. I nodded. Won't keep you long, Arthur. But I thought you should know the truth before she paints a different picture. I handed him a thick folder. His expression tightened with each page he turned. By the time he reached the last photo, his face was etched with a weary resignation. He just rubbed his temples and muttered, "Goddamn." I exhaled, a long, slow release of tension. She'll tell you I left her without reason, that I gave up. I met his gaze. I didn't, Arthur. She did. He nodded slowly. I believe you. I always warned her. Don't mistake comfort for weakness. You didn't deserve this, he murmured, his voice heavy with disappointment. It wasn't about vengeance anymore, not entirely. It was about ensuring there were no shadows for her to hide in, no sympathetic ears willing to believe her fabricated narrative. Only the cold, hard facts. That weekend, I tossed the last box of her belongings. And then, unexpectedly, the tears came. Not for her, not anymore. But for the man I used to be, the one who believed in the fairy tale, who brought home flowers on Tuesdays just because, who wrote clumsy love letters during tedious meetings. That man had died the night I saw her with Julian. I wept for his naivety, and then I finally let him go. 2 days later, Serafina called. Curiosity, a morbid fascination, made me answer. Her voice was flat, drained. The last vestiges of tears seemingly dried up, leaving only a residue of bitterness. You really think you've won, huh? A grim smile touched my lips. This isn't a game, Serafina. But if it were, then yes, I've already won. Her breath hitched. You ruined my life. No, Serafina. You did that. I just made sure no one missed the show. Silence. Then, a brittle defiance. I'll fight this. I hope you do, I said calmly. Because I've got lawyers who enjoy a good fight. Especially when the other side has nothing left but a story no one believes. I hung up. Later that night, a text from an unknown number, Julian, followed by a single line. You had no right. My reply was instant. I had every right. And then I attached the photo, the one of him kissing Serafina poolside. Time-stamped, dated, undeniable. No response. I never heard from him again, but the silence was confirmation enough. Nearly 2 months had passed since I'd walked out. The aftershocks of her betrayal still rippled through the quiet moments. In the stillness of morning coffee, I'd sometimes hear the echo of her laughter, until the cold reality of its falseness would settle in. Every intimate memory was now tainted with doubt. Yet I was starting to breathe again. Peace returned cautiously, like a wounded animal testing the safety of its surroundings. Morning runs became a ritual. Therapy, a weekly shedding of layers. I even reconnected with my brother. A year of silence erased by a shared beer and a painful honesty. Her calls dwindled, replaced by emails. Desperate pleas, tearful apologies. Then bursts of anger, followed by more apologies. A predictable cycle of guilt and manipulation I'd finally become immune to. Then the email that almost elicited a genuine laugh. Elias, I've lost everything. My parents won't even speak to me. Julian has completely disappeared. I don't even know where he lives now. No job, no friends. I just want to start over. I know I messed up, but can we meet? Just once. One real conversation. Closure, if nothing else. Closure. She wanted closure from the man she'd buried alive. I drafted a reply. You don't want closure, Serafina. You want forgiveness. But I'm not your priest. I'm the grave you dug for your old life. I didn't send it. Some ghosts are best left to haunt the living. That week, Simone called. She's contesting the divorce, she stated flatly. She doesn't have grounds, I replied. We both know that. She knows it too. She's trying to delay it, requesting mediation. My jaw tightened. Let her waste her time. I'll bring the receipts. A week later, I sat in the sterile downtown office, early, suited, my head clear. Serafina arrived late, disheveled, the confident facade replaced by a mask of exhaustion and smeared mascara. She barely looked at me. Good. Simone went first, laying out the case with cold precision. Documented infidelity, financial misconduct, emotional manipulation. She presented the evidence like bullets in a loaded gun. Serafina tried to argue, a weak defense built on the shifting sands of victimhood. I was emotionally neglected. The mediator, a woman with eyes that could cut glass, didn't flinch. You committed sustained infidelity, Ms. Reed. That is not neglect. That is cruelty. For once, Serafina was silent. By the end, the outcome was clear. No alimony, no division of assets. She walked away with her clothes, a few trinkets, and the ashes of a life she'd incinerated herself. And I walked out a free man. 2 weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived from Vivian Thorne. Elias, you didn't just save me, you woke me up. I would have spent years blaming myself, trying to fix him, but you gave me the truth. That's more than most people ever get. I filed for divorce, took the kids, started my own business. Just wanted you to know you're not the only one who came out stronger. Gratefully, Vivian. I held the letter, a tangible piece of justice that had nothing to do with courtrooms or public shaming. It was liberation. 3 months bled into each other. A new apartment, a quiet life, a few tentative friendships. Dating wasn't on the horizon, not seriously. I wasn't ready, but I was learning the quiet comfort of my own company. I started teaching a night class, Introduction to Architectural Theory. My students, young and hopeful, reminded me of a time when building felt like an act of pure creation. One night after class, I stumbled upon a small Italian cafe I'd never noticed before. Isabel, the woman behind the counter, handed me a cappuccino with a genuine smile. "Rough day?" she asked, her eyes kind. I chuckled. "You could say that. Want to talk about it?" I looked at her, honest eyes meeting mine. Maybe someday. She didn't know a single thing about the wreckage of my past, and for the first time in a long time that felt like hope. Meanwhile, Serafina's carefully constructed world was crumbling publicly. An old colleague, one of the few who still spoke to me, mentioned her Facebook page. I'd unfollowed her months ago, but morbid curiosity got the better of me. Her once curated feed was now a desolate landscape of vague sadness. Photos of empty wine glasses, saccharine inspirational quotes, a selfie captioned, "Some people are only meant to teach you pain." The comments were a mix of pity from strangers and deafening silence from those who knew the truth. She was alone, truly, deeply, deservedly. But I felt nothing. And nothing, I've come to realize, is a far more potent victory than rage. Then one last email. Subject line, "You win. I'm moving. I need a fresh start. You were always right. I just didn't want to admit it. Maybe one day you'll forgive me, but I don't expect it. You don't owe me anything. I hope you're happy now. Serafina." I didn't reply. There was no anger left. No need for further retribution. I had already won, not by destroying her, but by rebuilding myself. Serafina hadn't just cheated. She tried to erase me piece by piece. But destruction, I've learned, clears the ground for something stronger. And in the end, I didn't just get justice. I got freedom. And freedom is a quiet revenge, leaving no blood behind. Only the silence that screams, "You never broke me." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.